In this lesson, we're going to further our little structural model we've been working on for our first 5 lessons. Just before we get into the basics, we're going to start to cover the interface and really break it down into individual parts of Revit structure. But for now, I just want a couple more points I want to drive home on our little model before we drop it off and start into the fundamentals of the beginning of our lessons, really. Last we left off, I'm going to do a shift middle mouse button. You'll notice first of all that it has that faint effect, the ghosting effect when I move it around. That's the new optimized display. I'm going to turn that off. That's kind of bugging me. So I'm going to go up to my big purple R and go into options. And then in here, I'm going to go to graphics. I'm going to turn off the optimized view navigation. Hit OK. And then when I shift middle mouse, it's going to stay just like that. The next thing I want to do is point out that when I did that beam system, I didn't set an elevation to it. And you can see that it's kind of cutting right into the top flange of the beam. So what I really need to do is compensate for the joist seat on these guys and probably bump this guy up too as well. So the beam system itself needs to go up by the joist depth. So what I need to do is I need to be able to escape. I want to be able to pick this individual joist right inside of here. Now, in order to do that, this has to be has to be enabled. By default, down in the bottom right, you see this little pin, select pinned items. I think by default it's disabled, meaning that you can't pick pinned items. You notice I can't pick the individual joist here. Even if I was to go to a floor plan and zoom in on there, I can't, even with my tab button, I can't pick the individual joist because it's pinned. So you have to go down here to your selection options. If you hover, it says select pinned elements. If you enable that, now you can select this individual object. And all I want to do is go into the type properties and I want to look for seat depth. There it is. 63.5, so 64 millimeters. I need to raise that beam system up off of its work plane. That's good. There's the seat length. We can change that as well. It'll cantilever that out. Close it off. So I just wanted to get some numbers on that. So now I'm going to do this from a 3D view. Because I used the same joist all the way through, what I'm going to do is hover over here, watch a little trick. I'm going to grab that beam system. You see the dashed lines? Click on there. Use your tab button if you have to. Now I'm going to right click and say select all instances visible in the entire project. Boom. And it's going to pick all of those. If you're not sure how many you have, you can go up and hit your filter button and it's going to say there is 11 structural beam systems currently selected. That's good. Hit OK. They stay selected. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change their elevation to be 100 millimeters, or sorry, 64 millimeters, which is just about 2.5 inches or 3 inches. And then click out. And then boom, that has actually changed the property so that this beam system, if I hover over here and pick on here, you can see that it's up by 64 because I selected them all. Now I might want to grab this guy here and do the same with the start and end. I'm going to go 64, do a Control C, copy that to the clipboard, and then Control V to there. So then kind of lift that guy up in case there's some deck that has to come across. So your spandrel beams, you might have to raise them up by that same distance, by the start and end. In this case, if you tab, you can pick the whole beam system by picking on there and then setting the elevation of it. So there's just a quick lesson on raising a beam system up using the elevation property based on the seat depth of that joist. Once again, make sure that your pinned items are enabled down here in the bottom right hand corner, or you won't be able to select the joist. If you want to move it, you still have to unpin it, and then you can actually move it around. We'll talk about that in our next lesson.